Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. If you can hear my voice, just type into the chat box that you can hear me okay. All right, I'm getting an affirmative. Well, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are today. Welcome, everyone, to today's 2019-20 YouthBuild AmeriCorps Partnership Grant Startup presentation. Speaking with you right now is Matt Fisher. I'm the Senior Director for AmeriCorps here at YouthBuild USA, and joining me on the call is Mallory St. Bryce, our Associate Director for AmeriCorps Programs, handling everything in the back and will be fielding your questions. If you are new to our webinar format, we just want to let everyone know that all the phone lines are muted. That's to keep the noise level down, and that today's presentation is being recorded. So if you miss any part or a colleague would benefit from the information, you can forward them a link to today's recording. I'll be sending that later today after today's presentation. Now, if you do have questions, there are a couple of ways to ask them. We have a chat box, and Mallory will be fielding them as we move along. You can write in that chat box. We're going to move along fairly quickly, so we won't be stopping too often. If you have a specific question that you need an answer to, you can obviously direct that to me, and there's my email address, or to Mallory, who handles everything programmatically, and Brandon Keffer, who's our Associate Director of AmeriCorps Finance, for fiscal-related questions. So let's get started. Our agenda today is really to cover three different major buckets. One is we want to provide an overview of the grant startup next steps, everything that needs to take place between now and when your grant opens up officially and that you can enroll members. We want to highlight some noted policies and changes for 2019-20 that all subgrantees, whether you are new or you're a existing grantee that has been awarded additional funding this year, we want to highlight some of those policies. And of course, since this is a grant startup year, we want to rely and talk about important reminders that all programs should be aware of as grant managers. It is our hope that really by having this webinar as the start up to our grant of this year, we're providing information so that everyone is on the same page, that everyone understands the commitment that is necessary to the implementation around this work, and that we are well aware of our responsibilities as grant managers. And to move through today's presentation, we do have some polling questions. I'm going to be asking questions. There'll be some multiple choice questions. You're going to click your answer. I'm going to provide 5 seconds per question to move things along. So are you ready? If you are ready, say out loud in your office so everyone can hear you. Are you ready? You say, yes, I am ready. That's exactly right. That's what you should do. Everyone should be turning towards you saying, why is that person saying that? So here is today's first polling question. In regards to 2019-20 YouthBuild AmeriCorps grant, I am the Program Director or Manager. I'm a Fiscal Staff Person, Executive Director, AmeriCorps Coordinator, or other staff position. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, who are you? And there are results. I see the majority of folks are Program Directors or Managers, and we are glad to have everyone who wears many different hats join us today for today's presentation. So today, I want to start off talking about this being the start to our 2019-20 grant year, but it also signifies the end of a long process for YouthBuild USA and for all of you as awarded sub-grantees. As most of you know, AmeriCorps is administered by the federal agency known as the Corporation for National and Community Service, or commonly referred to as CNCS or the Corporation. As a long-standing National Direct Grantee recipient, YouthBuild USA recompetes for CNCS funding every 3 years. And as part of that process, we require interested YouthBuild USA affiliates, either previously funded or new, to submit an application for funding consideration. And if you are part of that process, involved in the application, you know there was a long timeline which started back in the fall of 2018 and concluded recently in the spring of 2019. And all of you who applied as subgrantees, your information that you provide to us actually informs our application here at YouthBuild USA. And what we do actually in the fall is we take a lot of that information provided and we have to submit an application which includes these pieces: a logic model, theory of change, a grant budget. We have to figure out a 3-year long-term evaluation research study. We have to submit and complete a financial survey to our federal funder. We have to provide information on operating sites. And then the bulk of the application is responding to a series of questions. It's a 15-page narrative that defines our scope, our need, impact, talks about how we will monitor awarded recipients, what member service will look like, and how members will benefit, and much, much more. So that's YouthBuild USA's responsibility, and that was something that was submitted back in January of 2019. So while that information went in, all of you went through a subgrantee application process. And as a result of that process, we had 70 total applicants and 62 awarded subgrantees. So our RFA provided evaluation or application review criteria. And out of the 70 applicants, 62 were awarded. 4 applicants were ineligible or their application was not complete or supportive, either for missing a section or not supplying the correct documentation. And 4 did not yield an application score supportive for funding. But we are excited to move forward in the next year with the grant award that was provided to us by CNCS, which will support 62 programs with $8.9 million. And what that equates to as far as impact is we will have 1 million of hours of service pledged by our young people who are enrolled in AmeriCorps positions. Over the course of a 1-year grant period, over 350 units of housing will be built, rehabilitated, and made safer. We will have available to us $4.5 million in education awards that will allow young people to step through new doors of opportunity, whether that's in job training or post-secondary education. It's quite an investment that CNCS is making into our opportunity youth at all of our YouthBuild AmeriCorps sites. And you've probably seen this formula before, but really what this partnership is about, it's about turning up the volume on service so that we can maximize the impact of a YouthBuild AmeriCorps on the member, program, and community so that young people feel changed and equipped with the tools to be more civically engaged, and through the completion of their service hour requirements, have the opportunity to earn an education award that will help them walk through new doors of opportunity. And of course, the success of any YouthBuild AmeriCorps initiative is really embedding and making service part of the YouthBuild program's overall DNA. We are looking forward to this next year and CNCS's recommitment in YouthBuild AmeriCorps programs like yours. So let's get down to sort of our next steps as grant managers. Everyone here on the line should have received a detailed email regarding some of those next steps. So some of this may be review, some of it might be a little bit some additional context to what was provided. I want to start off by saying we actually have a dedicated web page. It is our 1920 AmeriCorps Grant Startup web page. There is the web address on the bottom. And there you will see a number of different resources available to you all. So grant terms and conditions, webinars, e-courses, fiscal management, criminal history checks, etc. That should be your go-to page. In addition, since it is a grant startup, if you have new staff or have been there a long time yourself and need a refresher, we recommend reviewing our many different YouthBuild AmeriCorps manuals, which help provide context around the implementation of this work. We do have a dedicated web page to those manuals and guides where you will find information about policies and procedures, fiscal management, member paperwork, criminal history checks, and performance measures. And I do have to say some of these are in process of being updated. So if you do not see the 2019 version, please know that a new version is coming along. If you need a place to start, really all new grant managers, our folks involved in this work, should read every year the YouthBuild AmeriCorps Program Manual for Policies and Procedures. A link to this manual will be sent at the conclusion of this webinar, and it provides a good 30,000-foot sort of view of all of our grant management responsibilities in implementing this important work. I also do want to point out that as sub-grant recipients of AmeriCorps funding, everyone here is held liable to CNCS regulations. And the CNCS grant terms and conditions, which are available on our website, provide more detailed information around what programs are obligated to do in the management of AmeriCorps members at their program. Now, a lot of our policies and procedures, our own sub-grantee agreement, speak and highlight a lot of these terms and conditions, but if you've been doing this work for a long time or you're new, reading the latest edition, because they are updated annually, is an important step to understanding the responsibility of managing this work. All right, so going on to next steps, there's the amazing A-team here at YouthBuild USA, responsible for the programmatic and fiscal oversight of this work. Here are those three buckets as far as next steps I want to highlight. The first is the AmeriCorps Management Conference. Talk about when they're happening and who should go where. We want to talk about the budget creation process, which includes a new financial management survey, and then specific grant opening tasks. So let's start with the Management Conference. There are two semi-annual management conferences. Programs are generally attending one of these two conferences, where we spend considerable time looking at the implementation of this work. If you are familiar with us, you know of this thing here, this image, which is our pyramid of purpose, which starts with a strong base, understanding the requirements of rules and regulations in protecting this investment, and moves up to creating and maintaining a remarkable member experience where young people feel changed personally and professional by the service experience they're providing in their community. So the times that we come together to review our pyramid of purpose are in the summer and in the winter. So our summer conference, which is coming up, will be in mid-August here in Boston. And the target audience for this conference is for those sites that are enrolling AmeriCorps members between August of 2019 and January of 2020. It also includes space for sites with recent staff turnover, aka new staff who need better understanding of the AmeriCorps requirements. So if you are a staff member from one of these programs, this is probably, and you meet one of these criteria, this is probably the conference that you're going to come to. Alternatively, our winter conference, which is tentatively scheduled for one of the Hawaiian Islands, in the dream I had last night, would be scheduled the week of January 6th through 10th. We don't know the location quite yet, although in my dream it was on one of the Hawaiian Islands, but it would be southern, central, or west, and this is targeted for sites that are enrolling AmeriCorps members after January 2020. Any DOL contingent sites who are not quite sure what moving forward for this year, and or new sites or staff that come in this fall and need a refresher. So those are our two conference periods. You should know which one you should be attending. Our registration has gone live. We've had 23 people register already. If you're one of those people and you realize, maybe I signed up for the wrong conference, please alert us and we can update that information. So who should come? Our intended audience for our conference is, for the most part, our program staff who are responsible for the administration or oversight of program requirements, new fiscal staff or invited fiscal staff or fiscal staff in need of a refresher responsible for the administration or oversight of fiscal reimbursement submission process, and last but not least, program leaders who are responsible for program oversight and implementation. So you have a hand in this work some way, either programmatically or fiscally. You might be doing the day-to-day work or providing oversight. This is the conference for you. Now, registration, we basically provide enough space for up to 2 program staff and 1 fiscal staff member from each program to attend one of those 2 conferences. So that's what we're looking for coming up to examine our pyramid of purpose. And as I alluded to earlier, there is a registration link that is online. It's on our webpage. It's been going out in our newsletters and will be part of this presentation when you receive a copy at its conclusion. Just a couple notes about our conferences this year, at least the one in Boston. We're going to be at the Sheridan here in Boston. And one of the 2 things we're excited about for this next year is we want to do a what we're calling a swag swap. So on Thursday, we'll be holding a swag swap. So if you bring in 3 branded items from your program, you get to go home with 3 other items from other programs. And then we also want to have a YouthBuild AmeriCorps Pride Day. And this is the last day of conference where you'll be welcome to wear your YouthBuild AmeriCorps t-shirt to our morning sessions to celebrate your YouthBuild Pride. So part of AmeriCorps and YouthBuild is branding, pride, especially the AmeriCorps logo. So we want to model that and have time during our conferences to see what different swag is out there with the AmeriCorps logo. All right. So I'm going to pause here for questions. I know we're just getting started here. Not a lot going on. I'm looking at the chat box. That's fine. That's all right. Mallory's fielding some questions, not pertinent to the larger group. So we're going to move things along. All right. And that is our audience participation part of the program again. So here are some questions. If my program enrolls members in the fall, the conference I should attend is what? Is it the winter conference, the summer conference, whatever conference I want, or both conferences? Those of us paying attention, answer the question in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And really the correct answer is summer conference. So if you're enrolling in the fall, you're coming to our summer conference. Unless you're a new staff member and need a refresher. All right, next question. If I'm a new staff member currently managing our 18-19 grant, ooh, trick question. The conference I should attend is winter conference, summer conference, whatever conference I want. I'm going to Vegas, baby. So if you're a new staff member who needs information about how to run your grant, which conference should you be coming to? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Looks like most of our participants got this right. The summer conference, that's right. We want to see you there. We need to get you trained. And then last question, if my program enrolls members in the spring, the conference I should plan to attend is the winter conference, summer, whatever conference I want. I'm just going to go to both conferences. And if we 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yep, winter conference is correct. All right, thanks for paying attention, and thanks for playing along. All right, so that was number 1 of 3 grant startup things. We're going to move on to number 2, which is talking about the budget and the financial management survey. So referenced earlier, there is a fiscal manual. All right, slide. And here it is. It talks about big picture related items to managing this federal grant and requirements associated with it. So we want to make sure that all of our programs are well positioned to move this work forward. And for future monitoring purposes, we are asking programs this year to complete a grant startup financial survey. That financial survey, which has been circulated and is in the grant startup email, looks at the following information. It asks to collect audit information, helps us to understand fiscal policies and procedures, and requires a submission of a few specific policies and procedures. So the grant startup email says we would like this information to be completed, documents to be provided, and to please do this via Dropbox by Friday, August 10th. So that's part 1. The budget itself, all you need to know is that the week of July 8th, we will be sending our subgrantee programs who are moving forward with us a grant-specific budget template which has your grant award and some other relevant information. We would like all of our programs, the person who is responsible for overseeing and producing the budget, to attend our budget creation webinar on Wednesday, July 17th. And the budget itself, we're hoping that programs will submit their budgets by August 9th so that we can start the budget review and creation process. So templates by July 8th, webinar on July 17th, budgets to be submitted by August 9th. That is our plan, and we want to reiterate that we want both the person who's in charge of putting together the budget, but also if there's oversight who has to make decisions to be part of that webinar and creation process. This next slide sort of recaptures some of that information. But once you go through these steps, that is when programs will receive, once your budget's reviewed and approved, a reimbursement packet sent to the program. So you go through the budget creation process first. It is finally reviewed and approved. I do want to reiterate, you have to complete the financial management survey as part of that process, and then you will get your reimbursement packet. So that's it, financial survey and budget. Easy peasy. So let's see if you recall those steps with a couple polling questions. When is my draft budget due? When I get to it, as early as August 9th, August 15th, or at the conference, submit your answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're following along. August 9th, exactly. Thank you. All right. The next question, last question for this section. When will I get my AmeriCorps reimbursement packet? After I send the subgrantee agreement, once I send in the start date form, after my budget is approved, sometime in the fall. I don't know if I answered this precisely. Well, let's see what people came up with. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. After my budget is approved. That's correct. So once you go through the budget process, you can get your reimbursement packet and you can start submitting for reimbursement. All right. So that was 2 of 3 major grant startup pieces. We're going to move on to the last part, which is grant opening tasks. These are mostly program related, administrative. So the first thing we want to reiterate is that we have these 3 things to go through: understanding program design changes, member position description reviews, and subgrantee agreement via DocuSign. So first of all of our programs in our grant to CNCS has approved service streams. And so we have been paying close attention to what our programs are doing, and more specifically, what members are doing at our programs. And so we want to make sure that members are only involved in grant-approved service as their primary service activity. And so all programs are approved to provide construction. And then there are a number of programs who have additional primary service tracks. It may be digital divide, community health and wellness, conservation, recycling, culinary. And if you have gone through a review process with your portfolio manager as part of grant startup, whatever is approved will be put into the subgrantee agreement, and only those activities that are in the subgrantee agreement are what members can participate in as their primary service stream. To do something different at your program would be unallowable and outside the scope of your grant. Now, I do want to say that if during the course of a year program changes a design element or is thinking ahead even to next year, start that conversation with your portfolio manager, and please do not engage in any other service activities until you are officially approved. If you have questions about that, you can talk to your portfolio manager and we'll be able to provide the necessary context related to that. All right. Now, member position descriptions. Each year, members for every different slot type needs to have a member position description on file, and that needs to be reviewed and cleared by your YouthBuild AmeriCorps portfolio manager. Position descriptions, we have templates on our webpage, should accurately reflect the activities of your members and include benefits, supervision, responsibilities, qualifications, and position standards. So, as part of grant startup, at any point in time, we need to update your own position descriptions and make them available to your portfolio manager for reviewing and clearing and putting on file here at YouthBuild USA. I do want to note, important thing, the education award amount always goes up every year, or seems to be going up every year, and so we know when things are not updated because these dollar amounts don't change. So this year, moving forward into the next year, here are the education award amounts. More information, and that I think is on our Grant Startup webpage or will be made available. Lastly, as part of our process, most of you are familiar with this by now, but we execute subgrantee agreements via DocuSign. This is an electronic back and forth between the folks here at YouthBuild USA that need to sign the agreement and the authorized signatory at your sponsoring organization and or program. So that process will continue to happen. We are hoping that once programs go through, provide member position descriptions, we understand the service activities, once that happens at your program, we'll be able to execute the subgrantee agreement. And we hope to actually send the sites by August 15th, if not earlier, if you've gone through those steps. Why is that? Well, it's because you cannot enroll anybody in AmeriCorps until you have an executed subgrantee agreement on file. So here's a little bit of a recap. Now you can start program design changes if you haven't sorted that out with your portfolio manager. If you haven't verified your designated signatory, we've been sending, that information is not updated. That was part of the Grant Startup email. We could be sending the information to the wrong person, then they can't sign it, and then it's lost going wherever that is, the cloud. The internet cloud, yeah. Don't want to go there. Okay, anyway, so by August 2nd, you can submit position descriptions and hopefully getting the subgrantee agreements out to sites as early as possible once it's gone through those steps. Just so you know, the DocuSign signatory, it's required by our board of directors, by our approval system, to have it signed by both our CEO and either a second executive leadership team member here at YouthBuild USA before it's reviewed by a portfolio manager and then sent on to the authorized signatory at your site. All right, it's a mouthful there, but program design changes, member position descriptions, subgrantee agreements, that's part of our grant startup process. Hopefully you're familiar with that. If you have questions, reach out to Mallory, myself, or Brandon, or your YouthBuild AmeriCorps portfolio manager. All right, here are our review questions. Get ready. When should I submit my program's 2019-20 member position descriptions? In the year 2022? Next year? August 2nd? Today? What are the results? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're trying to go by August 2nd. You could submit it today if all the information is accurate and update for review. So we would have taken the last two information. All right, next question. Here we go. What must happen before my subgrantee agreement is sent to the program? We need to facilitate program design changes, verify designated signatory, submit position descriptions, all of the above. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're playing along. All of the above. That is correct. We want to make sure that those three things have happened before the subgrantee agreement goes to the site. And last review question. What happens after my subgrantee agreement is signed by all parties? Everyone does a happy dance. You get a free box of cookies. Slots are allocated in the AmeriCorps portal is what that should say. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. Looks like everyone's on the same page. That's right. You cannot enroll members in the AmeriCorps portal until your subgrantee agreement has been executed. Excellent. Thanks for playing along. So those are three major grant startup steps. Before I move into the next section, I just want to point out a few little minor ones that you need to be aware of, program folks. First of all, on our grant startup page, you will see resources, lots of resources. First of all, if you're attending our summer conference, really, if you are new on the program side and you want to learn about areas of focus for 2019, our key member paperwork requirements, including the National Service Criminal History Check process and how to prepare for the conference, we ask that you attend our webinar on August 7th at 1:30 p.m. That's open to everybody, but geared towards those folks. And then we want programs to get the necessary context to understand the implementation of this work. So all program track attendees, there's an Intro to Service Learning video, there's a Grant Startup webinar, there's a video library for National Criminal History Checks, And we require programs, at least one person from every program, to complete the National Service Criminal History Check online training course. So if you haven't done that yet, make a note to do so, because now is the time to do that. In the fall, we'll continue our learning, and we'll focus on full-time member management, provide some fiscal management expectations, and then dive into TrueScreen and FieldPrint FAQs. All right, so that was our next steps. Pretty clear? I hope so. All right, I'm looking at the chat box. We're doing pretty good here. We're going to keep things going. All right, policy changes. Policy changes. I'll say it a third time. Policy changes, that's right. Let's talk about 1920. Some of these are actually refreshers, but they happened last year, but we're still implementing. So we're going to revisit some of these and then talk about one. None of these should be surprises. All right, the first one, these are the three that we're going to go over. Matching funds, pre-enrollment of members in the AmeriCorps portal, and NSCHC TrueScreen/FieldPrint. Okay, so let's talk about match. I have a couple questions for the group. And if you don't know the answer, do the best you can. So, does the program have a written policy and procedure of how it tracks and documents its match for the AmeriCorps grant? Yes or no? Yes or no? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, skip it to the results. Most everyone does, few do not. Next question, does the program track its match in its general ledger by each individual source and where the source is applied? Yes, no, I don't know. And if we skip to the results, majority say yes, a couple no's, and I don't know. Fair enough. And last polling question, does the program document in-kind match and add it to the organization's general ledger as a revenue and expense? Yes, no, I don't know. I don't know. What? In-kind? General ledger? No? So we're going to skip to the results. All right. So we're bringing up match again because this is one of the important improvement areas that our network needs to address over the next 3-year period. If you said no or I don't know for any of those questions, we need to turn those into yeses. The actual financial management survey asks if programs have the policy, and I think everyone says that they do have some sort of match policy. So we're collecting those during our financial management survey process because we really want to get into the weeds on this and understand if programs are truly documenting, recording, and tracking match as required under the conditions of this grant. We have noticed some areas of deficiency brought to our attention via our ongoing, yet to be closed OIG audit. And so we want to firm up programs' practices and make it really clear how you are all tracking, monitoring, and documenting your match. So we will test policies, review policies, and test expenses. If this is new to you, everyone should know this, but for every dollar that you receive in AmeriCorps funds, you have to match it primarily with a non-federal source that's approved, that goes to operating your YouthBuild AmeriCorps program. All match expenses need to be reasonable, allowable, allocable, and documented. And what that means is, yes, you can use in-kind match, but let's say somebody donates, I don't know, $5,000 to allow you, when you're doing yoga, to rent goats. I don't know if you've ever heard of goat yoga, but very popular here in the Northeast. But you get goats to help out with your yoga, and someone said, I'm going to, as an in-kind donation, give you $5,000 worth of goat rental for your yoga. The question is, would you have actually paid $5,000 for yoga, goat rental? Probably not. So everything needs to be reasonable, allowable, allocable, and documented. And so as we see an increase in in-kind match, we want to make sure that is being adhered to. Our policy, which is our policy this year and for next year, is that we want to test the first and last month of match expenses, requiring programs to submit full support documentation, including staff timesheet for those whose time is being used as match, copies of invoices and receipts, a general ledger and/or sufficient tracking device of match expenses by source, and other requested documents. So that is one of the major policy changes that we are continuing to implement and will be moving forward in our next grant year. If you have questions about that, I encourage you to reach out to Brandon Keffer, our AmeriCorps Director of Finance. All right, so that's one of 3 policy changes. The other one, most of our programs have been navigating. This is sometimes known as 5-day enrollment or pre-enrollment of members in the AmeriCorps portal. So if you recall, you had sort of 30 days where you needed to get all your paperwork in order and before you submitted them as an enrollment in e-grants. Most of us know that is no longer the case. What needs to happen first is whenever you enroll a YouthBuild student as an AmeriCorps member, you need to enter preliminary information into the system that includes their social security number, their citizenship, and you need to verify where they are at with the implementation of their National Service Criminal History Check process. That needs to happen first before you can officially enroll them. Once everything is cleared by CNCS and the process in e-grants, you can hit the official enroll button. And starting, I think it was today or last week, they're actually changing it from 5 days to 8 days. So you get this 8-day window where you get to go back in time once everything's in order to hit the enrollment official button. So we are pre-enrolling our members as early as possible, getting things organized. All right. Questions about that, you can reach out to your YouthBuild AmeriCorps Portfolio Manager. All right. Last policy change update that I want to highlight is related to the National Service Criminal History Checks True Screen and Field Prints. Matt, why do you got to talk about National Service Criminal History Checks? I can't do it. You keep talking about it, I'm just not strong enough. Well, it's still here, and we need to continue to chisel away at making sure that we are mitigating all risk with the implementation of our National Service Criminal History Checks. So as you know, over the last, it's June now, November, so 8 months, CNCS implemented the following. They officially implemented a CNCS-approved vendor to administer the NSCHC. TrueScreen, which does both the NSOPW and the State Repository Check of Service and Residency, and added that to their already approved vendor FieldPrint, who conducts fingerprint-based FBI checks. In the fall, when they rolled out this new vendor, they created an exemption period where programs could run rechecks of covered positions utilizing both the TrueScreen and FieldPrint system for all aspects of the check as required. And if they did this first by March 31st and then they extended it to June 30th, which is June 30th coming up, if you do that and if for some reason your check happened to be non-compliant in the past, if you run through a recheck during this exemption period and did it through this process, then it's sort of your get-out-of-jail-free card if for some reason it happened to be done incorrectly. In addition, CNCS announced that it was expiring certain blanket ASPs. These are alternative search procedures, which allows programs to have compliance checks. Now, they're phasing these out at the end of the year. 3 big ones that our states have, or programs, might be particular to your program, is allowing clearance letters in lieu of results. So the state says you can't actually maintain the state results, but you can have a clearance letter that references things. Departmental orders, which is sending fingerprints directly to the FBI. They're getting away with that. No longer can you do that. And then there's this other one that is probably applicable to most of our programs that, you can be cleared of needing accompaniment when either the state or FBI check results are returned to the program. So because we know state checks are conducted relatively quick, it was a great benefit to having this ASP in place. So now, without this ASP, you need to have both the state and FBI check done as soon as possible. I think they did that because we know the fingerprint check can be done, fingerprint check can be done in 1 to 2 business days generally. The TruScreen NSOPW state repository check of service and residency could be done in 2 days in general, compared to when you do a departmental order, which takes 8 to 10 weeks, as much as having this ASP has been very handy. Now, last but not least, when they rolled this all out, you're probably familiar, they had this cost-based disallowance for non-compliant checks. All right. Now, in response to CNCS's TruScreen and FieldPrint information this fall, YouthBuild USA required programs to do the following, and that is to have all 2017-18 and 2018-19 subgrantees establish TruScreen and FieldPrint accounts. We then expected all active grantees to conduct adjudicated rechecks for your National Service criminal history check using TruScreen and FieldPrint on all active 17-18 and 18-19 covered staff positions and any active full-time members, because we know the majority of our costs under our grant apply to these individuals. So we're like, why not do this? And of course, we wanted every program to strongly run rechecks on active members. So we were strongly encouraging programs to do that. There's a number of programs, a lot of programs actually, that took advantage of that, and I want to thank them for their efforts doing that. There was one program that did all of their members, over 200 plus members, plus staff, and they took this really seriously in mitigating the risk. I want to thank every single program that did those 3 things at your site, because we want to demonstrate to CNCS that we take criminal history checks seriously, and that if this is a resource being made available, that we take advantage of that. So moving forward, because of the implementation of TruScreen and FieldPrint, YouthBuild USA is implementing the following policies. I've alluded to these in other email communications to the field. So starting with the 2019-20 grant year, and effective when the enrollment period starts on 8/15/2019, all YouthBuild AmeriCorps subgrantees will be required to use CNCS-approved vendors, TruScreen, and FieldPrint to conduct the National Service criminal history checks on all CNCS cover positions. That includes members and/or staff. In addition, we will be requiring all of our subgrantees to use YouthBuild USA's new National Service Criminal History Check Verification Form to document an NSCHC on a cover position using TruScreen and FieldPrint. So this new EVF is coming soon. It's a little bit more streamlined than our previous EVF and is more suitable to documenting the full TruScreen and FieldPrint process and adjudicating results for the NSOPW, state, and FBI check. So that is our new policy and process for the 1920 grant year, starting with our enrollment of members for 8/15/19. In fact, I encourage you all, if you are currently enrolling we're sort of in this gray period to continue to use programs or continue to use TrueScreen and FieldPrint for the enrollment of your members. Now, with that being said, our goal with using TrueScreen and FieldPrint is really quite, simple, and that's, to continue to be a partner with CNCS around this. CNCS knows that YouthBuild USA encouraged all of its subgrantees to utilize TrueScreen and FieldPrint to conduct rechecks on all of its covered positions as much as possible. We know that our network will be tested on these rechecks in the next coming year. This is a focus of CNCS's, is to see how programs did with the implementation of these new vendors. Now, we are doing this because we want to mitigate risk across the network. But we are also listening to concerns brought up by some of our programs regarding the exclusive use of TrueScreen and FieldPrint for some parts of their criminal history check. For instance, we know that some programs reside in states where the state repository can actually facilitate the FBI fingerprint check in a seamless fashion. And so they actually come to site, they do the state checks and the fingerprint checks, and can do it for all 100 members within a span of 48 hours. Now that might be a huge benefit to the program. And so a program might be like, we want to do TrueScreen for all of our NSOPWs, but we'd also like to use this repository to run our FBI checks. So YouthBuild USA is willing to listen, and for this next year, on a limited basis, a waiver exempting a program from the required use of TrueScreen and or FieldPrint for any part of an NSCHC process will be reviewed and granted to individual programs who can demonstrate significant barriers to utilizing the vendors to conduct its NSCHCs for their program, who can demonstrate that the program's NSCHC process and written procedures meet CNCS requirements, taking into account soon-to-be expiring pre-approved CNCS alternative search procedures. And 3, has demonstrated past compliance with NSCHC requirements. So, on a limited basis, programs can apply for a waiver if they can demonstrate these 3 things. We are currently still working on the waiver application process. More information will be made available in the next 2 weeks. We will finalize that process and make it available to those few sites that this applies to. And we ask that if you're interested in this possibility to please contact your YouthBuild AmeriCorps portfolio manager to learn more about this process. I do want to state, late last week, CNCS implemented their new or released their latest version of the enforcement guide. And one of the things that they pointed out, or that they're mandating, is if programs are given waivers or have a process that doesn't utilize TrueScreen and FieldPrint, but then you find out they have issues running their National Service Criminal History Check, the required corrective action, one of them, besides paying back disallowed costs, will be to require them to use TrueScreen and FieldPrint. So I just wanted to point that out. That will be a condition of any program that receives a waiver after demonstrating those 3 things. If for some reason things aren't working out, this is going to happen. So we want to provide some flexibility, but we want to be clear on those expectations. All right. So we have a few minutes left here, and I want to go, so that's a lot of different policy changes that we talked about. If you have questions about them, once again, you can send an email to myself, Mallory, or Brandon, and we'll be happy to field your answers, or you can always contact your YouthBuild AmeriCorps portfolio manager. All right. So a few last-minute things. I got to see if I can find them. Reminders. I call these our reminders. first one, as I have a question for the group, which is, what is the name given to a list of things AmeriCorps members can't do? Does anyone know the name of this? If you know it, type it into your chat box. What is the name given to the list of things AmeriCorps members can't do? Ooh, people must be eating their lunch. I keep seeing burp. Burp. Prohibited activities, burping. Yes, burping is rude. Prohibited activities, burp. Ah, excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, so everyone is following along here. We're right. We're talking about prohibited activities of AmeriCorps members. So once again, AmeriCorps members can't burp, and really this is applicable to both staff members and volunteers under AmeriCorps. They cannot attempt to influence legislation, organize protests, boycotts, strikes, assist in promoting union organizing, providing referrals for abortion, displacing or supplanting staff, etc., commonly referred to in our network as burping. So business activities, union activities, religious, and political protests. So thank you for playing along. Is this a question? Let's see. My next question for the group is, what must AmeriCorps members wear every day that they are earning AmeriCorps time? Pants, a hat, the AmeriCorps logo, or the AmeriCorps logo and pants? What is the correct answer? And if you skip the results, we would accept either AmeriCorps logo or the AmeriCorps logo and pants. Hopefully there's some sort of pants, skirts, shorts being worn by individuals there. But the logo is what we are going for, and that's what we're talking about, AmeriCorps branding. So, you know, CNCS requires that all members, while they're earning AmeriCorps hours, wear the AmeriCorps logo. And I want to say we just got our latest batch of photos from programs, and it's just great to see the branding out there and the implementation. Stickers on helmets, the vests, the safety vests that are out there with the AmeriCorps logo, incredible. Programs who are doing all, non-construction service-related activities, community health and wellness, seeing embroidery on scrubs. It's just great. Lanyards, name tags. This is excellent. So I really want to thank all the programs doing that and getting members to wear that logo every single day. All right. Next question as part of our reminders. What must happen at the beginning of an AmeriCorps member's service term? A mental toughness, a singing competition, an AmeriCorps member orientation, a reciting of the AmeriCorps pledge. What is the correct answer? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. An AmeriCorps member orientation is the answer we are looking for. A lot of programs implement this during mental toughness, and it's important that your AmeriCorps members receive context to what it means to be an AmeriCorps member by going through and understanding their position description, their rights and responsibilities as a member, to understand what AmeriCorps is and the benefits of receiving an AmeriCorps Education Award or, in general, of serving their community. So AmeriCorps orientation is an area of focus here at YouthBuild USA, and it's something that we are trying to create resources and really push to our programs to make sure that you have a robust, successful AmeriCorps member orientation. This is applicable to all members, full-time, reduced half-time, quarter-time. All members need this orientation. All right. Last question. What is the name given to the procedure that resolves disputes between two particular parties? Does anyone know the name of this? You can write it into the chat box. Write it into the chat box. Given to the procedure to resolve disputes between two particular parties. Dispute, resolution, mediation, arbitration, conflict resolution, grievance procedure, question mark, grievance procedure, grievance. The answer we are going for is grievance procedures for members, staff, or outside agencies. So all programs are required to protect the program and to settle disagreements by having a grievance procedure that is available for member, staff, or outside agencies to go through. This is in our Policies and Procedures Manual. If you're not familiar with this, another reason to pick it up reference it, review it, become familiar with it, and make sure that you have a robust grievance policy, because when you need it is when you need it. Those disputes come out of nowhere, and you need to have a process to dispute it. All right, so those are our reminders. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've gone through our grant startup next steps. We talked about noted policies and changes for 2019-20. We talked about important reminders as grant managers, and we are doing it. We did it all by the top of the hour. So I want to thank everyone for your time today. Once again, if you had particular questions that were not answered, you can send them to Mallory, Brandon, or myself here at YouthBuild USA. And of course, your YouthBuild AmeriCorps portfolio manager is always available to answer any of your questions, as well as your AmeriCorps fiscal manager. I want to thank everyone for your time. We're really excited about our next grant year, CNCS's continued investment in all of our young people and you at the programs for the great work that you are doing in your community. 1920 is going to be the best yet, and I wish you a great summer, and I look forward to seeing you at our next management conferences. Take care. Have a good day.